Oh, well, Arsenal to Brighton nil. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a tale of two halves because any competent, decent team puts us to the sword in that first half. Like, that first half could have easily been 3-0 Brighton. They had that first 10 minutes, that game could have been out of sight in that first 10 minutes. And we were pretty lucky that Brighton just in front of goal, they're absolutely whack. And it's games like this is when you start to realize why they're like a bottom half team, not bottom half, sorry, like mid-table team, because you just don't know what Brighton you're gonna get. But one thing you do know, even through like their managers they've had, with Graham Potter, De Zerbi, and this guy they've got now, is that their attacking football philosophy has stayed the same. They were cutting through us with ease in that first half. And look, I've been saying it, and I don't want to see those two tractors in midfield. Like that midfield with Marino and Norgard is just too heavy-footed, and they were cutting through us very easily. That those first 10 minutes, they had two opportunities where they just broke through our midfield with ease, 1-2 passes, and they're through on goal. There was two opportunities they had. I can't remember. There was two opportunities that had one-on-one. One of them he completely shanked it, and there's another one they had as well. But yeah, that midfield is an issue. It's an issue for a lot of reasons. One, in terms of the way we progress the ball. I've said it in the Premier League games, and it's the same in this Carabao Cup. It is way too slow for the sheer factor of, one, you're playing the wrong personnel in there, and two, midfield is about synergy as well. You have to remember. So it's about having the right players and the right profiles in order to gain the best sort of results when you have that midfield. The midfield is the engine, it's the most important part of that pitch. So getting it right is the most important bit. And Norgard and Marino, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. We had Wanyeri in that midfield. I think he had an okay game. I think the second half he came off, he actually played a little bit better, and I'm a big fan of Wanyeri as well. But we don't have a player in that midfield. Didn't have a player in there that can, one, pick up the ball under high pressure from Norgard and just drive with that ball forward, get the team moving forward. And Marino doesn't do that. Marino is almost playing like a second striker in that midfield, which it's probably the reason why we were getting cut through so many times, is because Marino was too high up in the pitch. Norgard moves like he's running in sandbags, and then you have Wanyeri, who's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of tracking back. So you don't know what you're gonna get. So it's like a 2v3. And when you have like a combative and progressive midfielder in there, like a Belabor, who I thought had a good game, it's no surprise that they were just running for our midfield with absolute no pressure whatsoever, because we're essentially having to play with two-man midfield because Marino's too high up in the pitch. And when he does drop deep and collect the ball, he takes an absolute millennium to turn and play off the pass. And often or not, when he does receive the ball, he's playing it back to where it came from, and that just slows up our whole play in general. And Marino, for me, is a good player in terms of he's a very intelligent footballer. In terms of his actual technique and actual technical ability is not the issue. His actual issue is the fact that his ability and his mind, they're not in sync in terms of there's things that his mind wants to do but his feet can't do because he just doesn't have that physicality. There's games across the season where in that midfield it might work and it might twang a lot of fans to thinking Marino in that middle works, but in a much larger sample size, Marino should not be in any competitive game where we need to win and we have to play in the front foot. He can't play in that midfield. Maybe as a striker, it can work because he's able to drop deep and actually create that overload in terms of having that extra midfielder in there. And in essence, that can work, and I can see that working. But as a midfielder, it just doesn't work. He's just too lethargic on the ball, and we lose a lot when we have him in there because that Brighton team, any team that's lethal in front of goal, puts us to the sword because they had some clear-cut chances in that first half. We had no shots on target. This could have been a completely different game in that first half, but nonetheless, we played well. Capier, this is the first game we've seen him play. I was a bit unsure whether he was the left centre back or the right centre back because there was times when he was covering the wide areas from the left and also from the right, and I'm not sure whether he was interchanging with Mosquera. But I thought he had a decent to okay-ish game. I don't think he set the world alight. I still think he doesn't look fully fit yet. But yeah, again, he's here on loan, so he doesn't have long to think. But I'm pretty sure we'll get him on a full. We'll get him on a permanent. But who else? Oh, Skelly. Look, I was cooking up Marino, but Skelly, boy, oh boy, that first half, he was scaring me, boy, man. Skelly, he's another one. Like at left back, he plays well at left back sometimes, and it kind of forces you to thinking that he can actually do that left back position well. But I don't know. I still think his actual future in this team is that position where we put Rice in, because you saw in the second half, Skelly can drive with the ball. Like, I think that's the biggest attribute he has, and he saw a little bit obviously with Timber, but I think Timber done it when Brighton were a little bit tired. But Skelly, there's a certain way Skelly does it. He does it so well under pressure, and the way he just progresses it through that midfield is something that we don't really have in this team, and it's something that I'm quite surprised that we haven't actually experimented. This was the perfect game to do it. It's at home to Brighton. You can try and Capia there at left back, and then put Mosquera and Calafiori, or Mosquera and Gabriel, or someone and Gabriel, or any of the. And you got about a million centre backs. You could have experimented there a little bit, and Skelly there where Marino is, alongside Nordgaard and Wanyeri, would have made our midfield a little bit more energetic. I just think, yeah, Skelly, I just feel like he will be. I think we're wasting him at left back, because every time that ball goes over his head, I'm scared. Like when that ball goes over his head, you're reminded every time why he's not a left back, and you're reminded that every time he can't defend, especially when that ball is going over his head. Like he just doesn't defend the balls aerially well, and I guess that's why in a lot of games where we want to be a little bit more sturdy at the back, maybe when Skelly might not be the smartest player to put in there. But yeah, him as a left back, boy, yeah. Less said about that, the better. But I thought he had a good game in the second half though, and at some point I do definitely want to see him in that midfield, because I believe he can play that midfield real well, because he's technically secure in the ball, and he can pass, and he can actually receive it under pressure and move that ball forward, because we needed that in that first half because Brighton were just running through us. Yeah, who else? Eze, Yeah, Eze as a touchline winger, I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of Eze on the left. I just think again he's another one we're wasting on that side. Um, yeah, I yeah I don't know because we don't really have a left winger like that. Yeah, Eze, I thought he had a decent second half, but overall I thought he was okay-ish. He didn't really do much, but yeah, he's wasted as a touchline winger. The kid played well. Obviously, it's his first game. I thought that chance he had, he definitely should have. Um, that needed to go over the goalkeeper. He should have lifted that a little bit, but I think he kind of panicked a little bit. But he looked good in spells, but the game kind of bypassed him a lot. I think obviously when you're a kid coming into the first team, you're not gonna have much to kind of complain about. You just have to kind of keep the ball ticking. He was pressing. He was kind of triggering the first press in the first half and stuff like that, and he looked kind of energetic. But in most parts, he had a really quiet game. But hopefully we can see a lot bit more of him. I think his tenacity is good. His finishing. Look, he had one chance, so it's maybe it's a little bit harsh to kind of critique on him on that one. But yeah, who was Dowman? Dowman was for me our brightest spark in that first and second half. Every time he got the ball, even him and Ben White, because Ben White for me looks tired. To me, he just looks like I just look like when I look at Ben White, I just think your days are behind you now. Like there was a season where Ben White was like the best right back in the league, and he really was because he was a very very good, very good and competent right back for that Premier League season, and going forward he just looks very good. But defensively, I think he even looks worse than Skelly. Like honestly, like he does not fill me with confidence at all. Maybe it's the injuries, and maybe that's kind of setting back a little bit. But yeah, I think this is probably the last season with Ben. I think because after that, I just don't think it's a viable option as a second choice right back. But yeah, Ethan. Yeah, going back to Max. He looked really good. I just think his end product is just the bit that's lacking a little bit. Those times when he got into really good positions and it's taken a little bit too long to release the shot, or he's taking too many touches and stuff like that. But I think in most of it, the build up with him looks really really good in comparison to someone like if you have Noni there, who doesn't look as polished on the ball as Ethan. Ethan just looks like, sorry, I keep getting confused when with Max. Every time Max gets on that ball, he just sticks to his feet. It looks like we're a constant threat when he's a different kind of threat in comparison to like someone like Noni. Noni's a threat in the fact that it just looks all kind of chaotic. Max looks more of a threat in the terms of he will beat his man and he will make attacking movements in that box to kind of make us do something. But yeah, second half we kind of came into our own, and that's when kind of Brighton kind of fell off a little bit. They had a couple of chances here and there, but that first half they'll be kicking themselves because that first half was their chance to completely take us out, but they didn't do it, and that's kind of what happens a lot. You don't take your chances, someone else will. But yeah, good result, especially with Liverpool losing to Crystal Palace 3-0. Fucking up, they just keep losing and losing. And also Tottenham being out, so it's a good result. Hopefully, this is a trophy that he should really be reaching the final and winning. Just get the players that feel of winning trophies again, and go for those big jugular. But yeah, it's a good, not a good performance. I don't think we played well, even in the second half. I thought we took our chances when we needed to, but overall, I just think our build up is an eyesore. Like it's an absolute eyesore. Like yeah, honestly, like I can't pretend like the way we move the ball through the channels. it just doesn't look good. It just looks very lackluster and slow sometimes. But when it does tick, it does tick. And sometimes it needs that when we have someone like Timber who just wants to pick up the ball and just go forward, or when you have your right back and your right winger so close together, so they're able to play those 1-2s and play it off a lot quicker and then keep the ball moving. But yeah, it was an okay game. I don't think it was great, but we move, and hopefully we get a favourable draw in the next round. I'm not sure if it's the quarterfinals, but yeah, I was supposed to upload the car content, but I'm kind of having troubles kind of editing that a little bit, so that will eventually appear on the channel. Just not sure when, but anyways, we'll see you guys on the weekend for the Burnley game. But yeah, thank you for watching.